Salutations, Summoners! Welcome to episode number 9B of the Casual Tryhard Legends of Runeterra podcast. I'm your dude who just had Mexican food, Anthony Ricoplays 1723, and things are back to normal because by my side we have Kristos. How's it going, Kristos? How you feeling?
Hi everybody, we're feeling much better than we were about a week ago.
Thank goodness. We really did miss you, but once again, thank you to Profit for kind of stepping in and helping us do episode 9A. I kind of messed up and said 9 when it should have been episode 8, so that today's episode is going to be 9B. So today's topic, I think, is going to be a topic that everyone knows about now and that we're super excited to talk about, and that's going to be patch 2.5. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it did drop, and oh boy, did we have some nerfs on this. I gotta say, Kristos, I am super happy overall with how the patch went out so far. Kind of how you feeling about it?
I'm looking things over right now, and everything looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with how Riot's take on the game is for balancing, especially if they do stuff like this where they give good reasonings behind every decision that they make. It's very open for everyone. There's a very clear conversation that they're having with all the players.
Yes.
So as long as they keep doing stuff like this, I am more than happy.
Yes. This patch, they made it very clear on what they attacked and why they attacked it. Mm-hmm. And let's just dive on in and just let our audience know. So first thing that the Riot did with patch 2.5 is give like a metagame snapshot. And this is super important because Riot usually just doesn't give out this information. So the fact that they gave it to us in a nice and neat format to kind of delve into was super awesome. So there are some asterisks to the information that I feel are important to go over. Snapshot data looks at decks used in Platinum, Diamond, Masters across all 4 of LOR's regional shards. So that's super important that it goes from Platinum and up. So Gold, Silver, Iron, Bronze are not part of this data, so that's important to note. This data is only quote-unquote meta decks, which is defined by 3% plus rate or 50% plus win rate, and they're represented in the play rates below. That the meta decks shown below are based off of the 3% play rate definition, since the decks that we're mostly likely to encounter on the ladder, as well as the number of high win rate. So this next one I thought was super important and super interesting, and it states that as a rule of thumb, 55% win rate and 15% play rate are the normal benchmarks for corrective balance, but they do make adjustments outside of those numbers. So I thought it was interesting to see that it was 55% win rate. Like, that's where they start investigating and looking at things, because coming from Magic, of course it's a different game. They don't have the ability to kind of adapt the way that Riot does, but I've seen win rates up to like 60, 65, 70%, and you know, WotC still not change things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how they have a very clear, like, this number exactly is too much, just because like people, like a pro is to be expected to have like a 60-ish% win rate against the field. So like more people can be, obviously the better you are, the higher your win rate is going to be. But just even in Platinum, like, players aren't exactly top of their field. So having this 55% win rate in that region is interesting to me. But I'm happy with it. Like, none of the changes are that drastic based on the information that they get. Riot is pretty good about taking time, and more measures, the better. Like, they don't want to shotgun something in the knees and wipe it off the map. They want to like chop it down bit by bit. So I think most of the stuff here is pretty good. I don't see any glaring like, wow, that's a pretty heavy nerf. So overall, patch is good. I think they're really good about explaining what they're doing and why they're doing it. So I have no real complaints.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat so far. I like what I see. So, or they talk about they give some of the metagame stats. There isn't anything too crazy. The two decks that I thought would have the highest play rate are the two decks that I see, which is going to be the Listen Trundle package and the Twisted Fate and Fizz package. And then the highest win rate out of all of them was Twisted Fate and Fizz. And then the second highest, or actually tied with the highest win rate, was actually Fura Shen. Yep. So that's kind of what I expected it to be. Those decks can be polarizing in the wrong ways in my eyes. So I'm glad that you can look at the data and the data plainly sees like, hey, these are the ones that are above their threshold of 55%, and these are the decks that Riot did attack. So
yeah, I played TF and Fizz for maybe like 2 weeks on ladder, and I didn't lose very many games. So I kind of got the feeling that like what I'm doing is ahead of the field by a good bit.
Yes.
And it's nice to see that it was like that 56%. I would say I had like a little bit higher win rate.
Oh, nice.
I was probably like 60-ish% or a little more.
Let's go.
Yeah, it was like it just felt so good. Like when you're playing a busted deck, like you just feel it. That everything you're doing is so strong.
That's right.
And TF is definitely responsible for that feeling. Like we even called this coming.
Yes,
like weeks ago, we called that TF was probably going to get nerfed.
Yes,
and he did.
I mean,
we're good. We're feeling good about our predictions.
Yes, it's a champion that does the thing that you and Logan always want to do in every card game, which is draw cards. So the big nerf that happened with Twisted Fate is that instead of the leveling up at 8+ cards, now it's if you've seen 9+ cards. They kind of made this nerf because a lot of the times they would play the Twisted Fate on turn 5 and it would level up immediately. And I think we all know the pain. I know the pain of dealing with a leveled up Twisted Fate. That is basically game winning right there, and it's almost impossible to really come back from that state. Riot saw that and they were like, hey, like we're gonna make it a little bit harder for him to level up. Granted, I'm kind of a Twisted Fate hater, so I would have loved to see 10+, but I can't complain. 9+ seems to be a good number from what I've been able to play on the ladder. So far, I have a really good record against Twisted Fate. I feel like the nerfs did what they had to do. But it should be interesting to see what they do and how they handle Twisted Fate in the future. Just because its level up ability is so...
It's so good.
It's so good, right? Like, you want to draw cards. Yep. So, there's going to be times where I'm sure where their R&D department are going to come out with some type of draw spell and then be like, oh, wait, we have Twisted Fate. So it should be interesting.
Game knowledge or like game design.
Yes.
Space. Maybe a little too much. Like 8 to 9 isn't that big in the grand scheme of things. It's like a speed bump.
Right.
That like usually gives you like an extra turn of interacting time.
Yes.
From your experience, I'd imagine.
Yes.
But like what happens, say, in a year's time when there's some dumb burst draw spell?
Exactly.
And like you can't risk it. It's the same as the Stoneforge Mystic problem, which is why we haven't had like good equipment done in a decade in Magic.
Very good point. Very good comparison.
You can't have these card spells now with TF in the game, so they're gonna have to change. Like, either they just like stop doing draw abilities, which is entirely possible. They could do that,
right?
Or they're gonna have to up TF's numbers even more in the future, and I could see that happening too.
Yes, I'm with you there. And then I would argue that the other nerfs to the deck are hitting that deck harder than Twisted Faith's nerf. But we'll get to that point later. Then the other champion that got some nerfs, which I am so happy about. I am so ecstatic. Thank you, Riot, for listening to us. So it happened to Fiora, and now Fiora, instead of a 3-3, is a 3-2. And then on level up, goes from a 4-4 to a 4-3.
So much easier to deal with.
Correct. That 1 point of health makes such a big difference. So instead of basically her being able to eat up your 1 to 2 drop, no problem, now she has to have...
She trades.
Yeah, she either trades or you have to have that protection spell. Like, no questions and ifs or buts about it. And now it gives that extra turn, once again, of you being able to interact with her. And it is a nerf that I'm super, super happy about. And it's something that I think Riot will use in the future in terms of how to properly deal with these alternative win conditions. Because I love Runeterra because of the combat and its combat-centric focus. So whenever you bring a alternate win condition, I'm looking at you like, yeah, like, are you sure you want to do that?
It almost doesn't feel like it's your game.
Right. Correct. Now, I know a lot of combo players out there that would be like, no, but still. But I'm super glad she got nerfed. I don't think she's gonna be any like S tier anymore. I think this definitely drops her down to like tier.
I think she's still like tier 1.5.
Right, exactly. I don't think it's gonna be like super devastating because, you know, if you have the protection spell, you have the protection spell. Like, that's gonna happen. But being able to interact with her that first turn, or her not being able to get that first kill the second that she comes down, I think is super important, and it helps players like me out a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good feeling when you can put them into a spot where if they have it, they have it.
Right.
If they don't, they don't. I think that's just inherently good gameplay in like every game.
Yes.
And now Fiora before was opponent of not good gameplay, but now it's a lot better. Like you have the kill spell, you have the kill spell. If they have the protection, you know, they got you. That's
no, sometimes. Exactly. Yeah, that's how card games work. So if you have it, you have, and if you don't, you don't. So I am in love with that nerf.
Yep.
Next up, they gave some buffs. They gave some buffs to good old Jarvan. I think that it was super interesting when we had Saucy on, that he was saying that his testing group, they had Jarvan kind of being that number one champion. And you look at the stats and they kind of have to like buff him up to get him to where he needs to be. Once again, you know, if you played card games long enough, you know that even 1 point, a 1 point increase in health and an attack power makes a huge difference. And I think this being able to trade a little bit better now, having that extra point of damage on the board, is going to make him more of a threat. Now, yeah, I don't know if this gets him out of like the tier 2, tier 1.5 level, but it's a good buff to see in my eyes.
It's a good buff. Jarvan's still just so boring.
We did have this conversation before, yes.
Yeah.
We were not a fan of his game design.
No, he's like, that doesn't fix him. He's not the least played champion because his stats are bad. He's just so boring. There's nothing like, I have no want or desire to play him.
We've mentioned on the podcast before that we are not fans of the elite strategy. It just does not. It's bland.
It doesn't do it for me.
It does. I'm with you 100% there. But you know what does do it for me? Dragons.
Yeah.
Dragons. And Shyvana finally got the Fury added onto her. And I think it's interesting because they added Fury, but then they put down her base stats from a 4-4 to a 3-4, and her level of up ability of 5-5 to a 4-5. I would argue that even if you just left the Fury on there and left her as a 4-4, I think she would have been just fine. Like
I think so too.
I don't think that if you would have, left her as a 4-4, she would break the game anywhere. But I guess they wanted to, more safe than sorry in this type of situation.
They changed her base stats down to a 3-4. I think I would have liked to see them flip those numbers and have her be a 4-3.
Okay, sure.
Just because, Shyvana, to me, in League of Legends, is, this beefy bruiser that has, a ton of health, and she'll just beat your face in if you let her. And I always think she has, more attack power than defense.
Gotcha.
So that's why I'm seeing the 4-3 instead of the 3-4. It makes sense. She's pretty beefy in LOR. So I think overall she's probably going to be a little bit better. I think she's kind of one of those cusp champions where you're unsure of what she needs to be doing and doesn't have all the right pieces yet.
Right. I agree with you.
So I'm hoping this helps that out a little bit, but I still think she's missing a couple good cards to surround her.
Yep. 100% agree. I would love dragons to be a thing because
I think everyone wants that.
Yeah, I think yes. I think everyone loves dragons. So who knows? We might see her get buffed again and go back to those regular base stats, but we'll see. Then this next one, a lot of people are in love with Lulu. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to me why?
No.
Because I don't know lore. She's a cute little wizard thing, and she's has her cute little lines, and she's a cute little thing, but just a lot of people on the Twitter sphere love Lulu. So is there anything in the lore?
Lulu she used to be a fae that walked into a magic forest and became trapped there for thousands of years and gained magic.
Interesting.
But now she's a Yordle, and Pix, who accompanies her, is a trapped soul. So it became a little bit darker.
Yeah, what?
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, the little butterfly that flies around with her, his name is Pix.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's a trapped soul. And now, I don't know why people like Lulu so much, but it's the same in game. People love having Lulu on the team because she has a really strong lane phase and can really hard peel for AD carry on your team. And she's been good for years and years and years. But in LOR, I don't really get it. I don't she's a cute character, but I don't get the hype around her. It's not my cup of tea, I guess.
But they did give her a buff, so now she's able to aggressively trade a little bit better, which I think is important. I have seen some deck builds utilizing her quite heavily. I just don't know enough about her to confidently say that these buffs are going to kind of change her place in the meta. I think it'll increase her stats, she'll be played a little bit more, but I just don't know her pretty straightforward play style of just being able to support a 4-4 in constructed, if that is gonna push her up a step. I just don't know.
Yeah, it really depends on what the meta looks like and if the 4-4 body is enough.
Right.
And right now, I don't think that it is.
I don't think so either. So
I don't know what it would take to make either a sizing thing or a metagame shift where there's a bunch of small ball stuff happening.
Sure.
Like a bunch of Azirs kind of running around type deal.
Right.
Might be better, but right now it doesn't seem to be the case. There's a bunch of 5-2s with quick attack, so not it.
Yeah,
not it for me.
We'll see. To all you fans that love Lulu, we'll see what happens with her. Now these two right here, these next two nerfs, are what I feel are the real reasons why TF is right now is not where it used to be. And I believe these are the two nerfs that Riot did a really good job of to kind of get TF, down from its pedestal. So
this first one is really big.
Yes. So they changed pick a card, Twisted Fate's pick a card. Instead of costing 3, it now costs 2. However, it only allows you to draw 2 cards instead of 3. And that makes a huge difference. A huge difference in being able to turbo level Twisted Fate as soon as he drops. So not only is it going to take one more card to get him to level up just from his level up ability, but then now you have access to one less card because now you can't use pick a card to draw 3. So I think that this nerf is the reason why Twisted Fate and Fizz is gonna fall down in the meta. I don't think. I mean, I think it's still fine, right? Like you pay 2, you get to draw 2 cards.
It's just
like
not as potent.
Correct. Like I think this is one of those situations where Riot did a really good job of like not overdoing the mechanisms to try to make things right. I think by just putting it down to 2, I think it's a big enough difference, but a difference in which Twisted Fate players still feel like they're getting some sort of value.
Yeah, I think in the short term, we'll see like a definite decline of TF is, and then it might come back when people kind of forget how good pick a card was.
I think so,
and
too.
Get used to the nerf.
Yes, I agree with you there. I mean, it's still fine. Like
it is. It's just like it's enough for you to actively notice it every single time, and people don't like that.
Right. I thought that they were going to go after stress testing, but I find it interesting that they chose not to, and they went after pick a card.
Stress testing is very good, but I don't think it's the main culprit.
Sure. No, that's fine. It's just like I feel like it would have been easier just to go after stress testing.
Yeah,
but
I think they made a hard decision.
Right. But then they probably looked at it and they were like, "No, we think this is gonna make the better impact." So I love it. It makes me once again. It's that one turn of being able to interact with my opponent that's gonna make a big difference there. And then I also really like how they handled this next one with Wiggly Burblefish. Once again, it's just 1 power. So it went from a 3-1 to a 2-1. But we've played enough card games to know that 1 power, especially being 3-2, is humongous.
Yeah. Like this card used to just win the game almost by itself, just by beating your face in over and over again.
Yes. And now putting it down to 2 allows it so that if they use imperative improvement, that instead of getting smacked by a 3-1 elusive and a 4-2 elusive, now it's just going to be a 3-2 elusive and a 2-1 elusive, which makes a big difference in terms of combat math. So, and I also really liked how they didn't change how you got it. Like they didn't change that you could get it down to 0 mana, because like people looked forward to that. Like I'm sure you as a TF Fizz player like loved the fact that you were able to like play this card for free. So
it's great.
Yeah, I love that they didn't take that excitement away and the payoff away from the players, but they just made it so that it's a 2-1, and I felt like it was a real nice, real classy nerf.
Yeah, before, like, I think everyone knows the massive difference between a 3-1 and a 2-1.
Yes, I would hope so.
Yeah. So, like, when you get a 3-1 for free, it is insane.
Yeah, it's good, man.
But now it's just like this nice little... It's a little extra instead of, like, this game-ending thing.
Yes.
It's just like a little, here you go. You did some work, you get a prize.
Exactly. I mean, it's still elusive, man. It's still elusive.
It's still really good. Like,
yeah.
It is. And I have to commend Riot for making changes that can still feel good for both the player and the person sitting across the table.
Yep, I'm with you there. And then this next one to dredgers. Where's Profit when you need him? It made it a 1-1 to a 2-1. In the patch, we're gonna go over some other cards, but Deep got some help. That Deep deck really did get some help, and having this card go back to a 2-1 and being able to successfully trade with 2 drops and even some 3 drops is super important for Deep players. Right. It helps out Deep players a lot. And I'm sure there was like mostly joking, but there was a little bit of an uproar against Deep because of the tools that they were able to get. So this being a 2-1 makes a big difference. And there's other ones too that we'll mention. But I'm not really a Deep player. I've played against it. But what I can say is that these buffs against my deck, basically it gets up to the point where I get them down to a low enough health and they're about to go deep, or they basically already gone deep and they're about to put the big creatures. It always gets to a point of whether do I have the Battle Fury, the +8/+4 burst speed, grant your unit +8/+4 or not. And if I do have it, I end up winning the game because I end up pushing through that damage. But if I don't have it, or if they happen to have the Vengeance, it's basically game over. So I feel like Deep is going to go up in the meta in my eyes.
Yeah, I don't see it too often, and it's definitely like a tier 2-3 deck, I think.
Sure.
And I think it's a cool deck. Like, it's definitely a neat deck to have in a meta. So I think upgrading it slowly. Like, you don't want to push a deck like this like a lot at one time because it's rancid.
Yeah, once again, alternate win conditions, obliterating your opponent's deck.
You have to be really careful when you're playing around with stuff like this.
Yeah.
So like minor things like this are really big and they should be good. Like we've seen it in other games a ton. Like when combo decks take over, people just stop playing the game because they don't like it. And Dredge can be one of those decks. Like, it can just be a complete coin flip and you lose like 90% of the time and it feels awful. Everyone hates it. People stop playing the game. So doing minor stuff like this is kind of exactly where you want to be. Just like taking your time, push a little bit of a time, see what happens, evaluate, and then go from there. That's definitely what Riot is doing here, and I think it is the right way going forward.
1010% agree. And I find that this is interesting that it's one of the few decks that actually, quote unquote, like it deals kind of with like the graveyard and the opponent's deck. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how far Riot pushes that game design. Because coming from Magic, we know what happened there.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if they add anything to it, like in the coming sets. Because I think it's a really cool deck.
Yes.
I just don't know how healthy it is for the game.
Yes, 100% agree with you there. And then talking about dealing with combos, they did the thing that we all wanted them to do, folks, and they changed the Dreadway. So they changed it, most importantly, so that it prevented the concurrent timelines and Lendros combo, which everyone was going absolutely crazy about. They even said, variance has its places, but this particular combo is too decisive in gameplay considering its erratic nature. Thank you, Riot, because that combo was piss poor. And
rancid.
Yeah.
Heinous.
Exactly. It just, oh man, it was not a fun time whatsoever to deal with. So I'm very glad that they were able to nerf this card, and I don't see it happening. They mentioned their second reason where they said, hey, like, we're gonna try to make it cost less so that we might see some more gangplank decks come out, kind of like a gangplank control type of thing. I don't see it really happening, but I am very glad that they made this nerf because of reason number one.
Yeah, I'm glad they addressed like the timelines portion of this combo. It's kind of gross, and I'm glad they are like actively aware that this combo exists and are like dealing with it. Just because I don't think it's very fun at all.
Yeah, it's not. It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's horrible.
As I said, once again, this is coming from me, folks. I'm the type of player that rather get into combat math and try to figure things out in combat, and so anything with those combo finishes, I'm just not a fan about. I'm like, no, thank you. Yeah. And then the couple of these next cards we won't go like thoroughly over because I feel like the next couple cards in the patch are just basically Riot changing certain cards because now there's been some power creep. So they're trying to kind of like make things stable. Shadow Assassin going from a 1/2 to a 2/1. Shadow Assassin being a 3 mana, now 2/1 when I'm summoned, draw 1, elusive.
It's okay.
I think it's okay. I think now where the game is, like this effect is just fine. And I think Riot is going to start trying to help out Iona in ways that don't evolve Lee Sin. So we'll talk about Lee Sin later. But I feel like they're going to try to help that region out just a little bit more. And I think it goes the same thing with the Fey Guide. Its base stats go from a 3/3 to a 3/4. Once again, I think it's just, hey, we're starting to see this power creep, so effect is fine. This next one, though, the Legion Rearguard, I think is pretty great because as a pirate aggro player, this means I have another 1-drop with a 2 health stat that can really start helping out, Noxus's aggressive strategy,
Yeah. Like this card was really good in my first deck, which was Teemo Burn.
Right.
Like Teemo MF Burn. And this card is great. Like it does so much.
Yes. And I think it now aggressive decks aggro have another tool to use, so I'm all about it. I'm down with the aggro. And then Sea Scarab going from a 1/2 to 2/3. Once again, it's really helping out deep.
Yeah.
It blocks your one-tops. It blocks well your 1-drops and your 2-drops. And it lets you maybe block twice instead of that one time. And
3 toughness is big.
Yes. And every time this happens, you start tossing, and that's what you want to do. So I think this is one of the big components of Deep starting to see more play in the meta. Esteemed Hierophant, brother, yeah, exactly. I think this is just for Expedition. I don't see this. Yeah, exactly. This isn't a chief.
There's nothing interesting going on here. They're just advancing it from 2 to 3. We all know once you activate the Sun Disk, it's really good.
Right.
But this isn't a turbocharged way to do it, and it doesn't. It's a 3 mana 3/4 that doesn't do anything, so it's just boring.
Yeah, it's all right. And then Callous Bone Crusher going from a 6/3 to a 6/4.
This is actually crazy.
It makes a big difference. I just don't know that if right now the way that the Shurima decks are built, I don't know if this has a home in any of them. But I'm not sure. I haven't played around.
If you remember, I said this card is one of the best in the set.
Correct. Yes, you did mention that.
Yeah. And I still think it's insane on rate, but it just isn't being played. And if I could tell you why, I would. This card it's so good. Its stats are just I cannot explain it enough. This card is so good.
Viewers, if you can build a good Kalos Bone Crusher deck,
I can't. That's the problem.
We'll have you on the show. We'll have you on the show.
Please, send me a list.
Kristos knows this is supposed to happen.
It's so like, please, listeners, please do me a favor. Send me a good Shurima list with this card, and I will love it.
So then the next nerfs are
Aphelios, baby.
I'm clapping it up, Riot. This is what I wanted. This is what the game needed.
This is so funny too, because this is literally what happened in League of Legends like 6 months ago. They made all this stuff get better later.
Oh my god. So basically all of Aphelios' moon weapons are now costing 3. Once again, in card games, the step from 2 to 3 or 3 to 2, that one step is huge. And now it makes it more difficult when you pair it with the Field Temple. So instead of getting to play your weapons for free, because it would refill it for 2 mana, now you have to use your mana to play these things. And I am hoping that this change from 2 to 3 is going to stop Aphelios, because now Aphelios is now a 3/2. Now Aphelios, all their weapons are now 3. So I think this is going to hopefully lower the efficiency of Aphelios and slow down his payoffs. But
I think so.
It's in Targon.
This is a pretty hefty nerf.
It's in Targon, so I don't know whatever to believe in Targon.
Like Aphelios is very good, and it's so funny to me that they're doing this in just multiple games over and over again, where Aphelios is just giga broken on release, and they have to change him multiple times. I think he'll be fine. Like I don't see him being tier 1 again.
So you'll see him like 1.52?
Yeah, for sure. Like he's still good, but he's not oppressive anymore.
Yes. And then the last nerf, which is a nerf that I also really wanted, is with the Veil Temple. So instead of giving your strongest ally +1/+1, it now only gives it +1/+0. I like this nerf because the effect that the Veil Temple has is still powerful. You know, like being able to grant your strongest ally that buff, and then after you play those 2 other cards twice to refill the 2 mana, like that's still a very powerful effect. But I think Riot has started to learn after this and after Grand Plaza that giving your units that +1 health basically for free is too much. It's too powerful in any card game.
Yeah, you just can't do that. Like I think all of these nerfs have like a common theme of just slowing you down just enough.
Yeah.
And this is just another prime example. Like the +1/+0 thing is the biggest part of this entirely. It doesn't matter about the 2 mana and the refilling, whatever. It's all like the +0 on the defense is the biggest thing for sure.
No, yeah. That's what makes the big difference, and I'm glad to see it. Overall, Kristos, if you were to rate this patch, right, from we're gonna say from A, B, C, D, F, sure, where would you put this patch rating?
This is like an A- patch probably.
Okay.
So like definitely really good in the top echelons for sure, but not like there's nothing like crazy here that I'm like, wow, they really went after this and did like an incredible job. That would give it like the A+ rating. So it's just really good. It's good. I have no complaints for sure, but it's not. There's nothing like standout or like anything that makes you say like, holy, this game's gonna be crazy now.
Right.
So I think it's just like it's creating a new norm, which is really good, but nothing super exciting.
So I am not as high on this as you are. I would rate it a B.
Okay.
But I think it's because Riot hasn't dealt with the elephant in the room. And I think now they're going to start to realize how powerful Lee Sin is and how powerful the Targon region is. So I think now all these nerfs are going to put Lee Sin as the tier 1 deck. And from my experience on the ladder, it kind of holds to be true. So we'll see. We'll see. And then once again, this is good old Ricoplays complaining about anything that's not fair in combat. But I just don't see how Lee Sin does not now become the number 1 deck.
It's not even that he's like super insanely good or anything. It's just annoying.
It's fair. It's fair. The stupid kick into your Nexus and then give it Overwhelm so that it goes through with complete damage.
Yeah.
Dear God. And then Targon has like 1,000 burst speed effects, and then it has the goat, and then it has the gems, and like basically the Lee Sin can always protect itself. So it's super, super powerful and super annoying. So just like I wanted Fiora to be nerfed, I want Lee Sin to be nerfed as well. Because I just don't see how it doesn't take control of the ladder now. And then
I can see your fears coming true.
Yeah. And then I think eventually, I could be wrong here, but I still think Targon is still too powerful with its invoke costs. And I know that Prof and I kind of spoke about it last episode, but the ability to invoke and choose a card basically for free is, I think, too much. And I would love to see Riot kind of use invoke like there's like that one drop. It's something loot where basically it invokes, but you have to discard a card to invoke. So I think in that card game math, it makes more sense where you're not down a card, you're not up a card, you're just equal. Because I feel like with invoke, you're basically always up a card, and if your opponent can't match up with that, or if there isn't a high enough penalty for invoke, I think Targon and invoke is just always going to be the best region. But I don't know. It could be me going on an old man rant.
Like, it could be. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, right?
Right.
Yeah. Like, your fears could be 100% valid, and it turns into just Targon steamrolling everyone.
I hope not. I hope not.
Best thing in this patch, real quick, is the Big Flex emote.
Oh, I have to check that out.
Scroll down on that page and look at it, and tell me that isn't the best emote in the game.
Oh, that's so cute. Who is that guy?
That's Earth.
You're gonna have to give me a little lesson for us.
There was an event in like season 4 or so where Earth stands for Ultra Rapid Fire. So all of the abilities in League had like no cooldown.
Oh,
and you could just
man,
spam stuff. Yeah. And it was like a fan favorite forever and ever. And they didn't bring it back for like 5 years. It was something ridiculous. And then they did, and like he's just grown into this mythical legend.
Is he holding a spatula?
Yeah. There's an item in the game called the Golden Spatula, and it gives you a ton of every stat possible.
What?
Yeah. It's great.
Now I think I might now have to buy this emote.
It's like, okay, Rico, think about this. You drop your 8-4, flex on him.
Done. Oh my god. After this podcast, folks, I am immediately going to the store and buying this. That is so cute. I love it. Oh my god.
You just get the dub. Flex on him.
Flex on him. Well, that's pretty much all of the things we wanted to talk about for this episode in terms of the patch notes. Once again, Kristos gives it an A minus. Anthony Ricoplays gives it a B. So we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to play a couple more games on the ladder. I think I've really found a deck that kind of attacks the meta quite well, and if it does well enough, I'll make sure to talk about it more. But just so that we can find new ways to interact with y'all, Kristos, where can they find us?
Please head on over to @casual_pod on Twitter. You'll see our big shield over there, and either hit us up in a DM or comment on a post that we make, and we will be sure to get back and interact with y'all. We love when you do that. And if you want to interact with me, I am @CristosiVivo on Twitter.
His Twitter is fire, folks. It's absolute fire. It's hysterical. When it comes to my Twitter, you can find me at El Charua Rico or Ricoplays 1723. We also have our YouTube, Casual Tryhard, Legends of Runeterra, and actually me and Profe have been working kind of on a project where we do crossovers. So last episode, I did a crossover playing some MTG. We played a really crazy combo deck, which was a lot of fun. But man, like, just Anthony's not about combo whatsoever. But it was a lot of fun. And then the next episode, I'm actually gonna get Prophet to come play some Runeterra with us. I'm still trying to figure out the best deck to kind of show him without making it too difficult. So like I'm probably gonna do Dredge because that's what Prophet plays in whatever card game he chooses. So we might go a little deep, or I might do a little Shurima Freyord Overwhelm. But it's a fun videos. We have a really fun time, so come checking us out there. And then for next week's episode, or if it becomes better the week after that, we really want to have more engagement and interaction with y'all. So if you would like, just give us a DM, a tweet, come hop in our Discord, and we would love to have one of our listeners actually come on to the show, and we can talk about what Runeterra means to you and why you like Runeterra and why you would like to come listen to us. Trust us, we're two really nice guys. We just love to talk about card games and just
please come on in, come into the Thunderdome.
Yeah, we don't bite. We just love to have fun and joke around. So just give us a tweet, a DM. We'd love to have you on. We do everything basically off of Discord, so it's a real easy setup. So hopefully we get you on, come interact with us. But for me, Anthony Rico Plays 1723, it's sayonara.
We'll see you next time, gamers.
Kristos, you had a heck of a drive, didn't you, bud?
Yeah, so for people that didn't know, I moved from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, up to upstate New York. And I left my house at 8:30 p.m. on Wednesday night. And I arrived in New York at my destination noon on Thursday.
So
that is 16-ish hours of driving.
So the OGs of the show remember our first blooper, which was Kristos talking about how he did a 25 million hour game session.
Yes.
So was this difficult at all for you, man, to drive all that way?
The past 2 days have been a blur.
Oh, dear God.
So I remember, I woke up at 11 a.m. on Wednesday, went to get my moving truck at 1, and then packed for 6 hours, I guess, and then left. And then I remember getting gas a few times. By the way, to fill a U-Haul truck, at like 288 costs like $80 a tank.
Oh, jeez.
And I had to do that like 4 or 5 times.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, everything I did was a blur. I didn't stop for food. And
you didn't have any energy drinks, right?
No, only water. Only water gamer.
I mean this with love, Kristos. How are you not dead?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Everything was such a blur. Like, I remember being in Pennsylvania, and then I remember being in New York. Like, I remember seeing the sign for Scranton, and I remember the sign for DC, and that's kind of it.
Oh my god!
And I remember there's you either go through toll roads or you go through the backwater of Pennsylvania where it's like up and down, side to side. You have to like downshift your truck multiple times to go down these hills because they're so steep. And like, if I wasn't a better driver, I think I would have died because it was ice raining the entire time.
How are you not dead, man?
I'm a good driver. B, I don't really know. But yeah, it was raining the entire time for my trip. Either raining or snowing.
Oh my god.
For 16 hours.
Oh my gosh. Well, there you have it, folks. There you have it.
Hell of a trip, but we made it.
Yeah, if the world's about to end and you need a person who can function successfully without eating, sleeping, or drinking, we got your man.
It's me.
we got your man.